Duty, honor, country.
These are the principles on which the United States Military Academy was established. The Academy, located at West Point, New York, officially opened in 1802 to teach these values and develop strong leaders to defend our great nation. For 174 years, West Point was exclusive to male cadets. On October 7, 1975, President Ford signed Public Law 94-106. This law opened all federal service academies, including West Point, to women. Women would be allowed to enter in the summer of 1976. The 62 intelligent, determined, and courageous women who graduated from West Point in May of 1980 never set out to break barriers, but by overcoming the adversity and hardship that came with being the first, they did exactly that. The three major barriers they broke are society's message obstructing their potential, unknown physical aptitude, and animosity. In 1976, the Army was still recovering from the Vietnam War. American society was not accepting of the idea of women in combat, but sweeping social changes were afoot, and women were eager to attend the service academies. Finally, legislation was catching up with women's requests. On July 7, 1976, the first women ever reported to Mikey Stadium for Reception Day, known as our Day, where they would be the first female cadets to walk the pavement of the United States Military Academy. On our Day, over 1,000 new cadets passed through in-processing, were issued military gear, and took their first marching steps and oaths of allegiance. This date set the precedent for 4 years of breaking barriers as the first co-ed class.
Well, I didn't see much of the campus itself on our day. I just saw a lot of people yelling and screaming.
119 women were immersed among the corps of cadets on this historic our Day, unaware of the barriers they would break.
I had no idea of the significance of what we were doing.
All of a sudden, women are coming in, and we went into high gear on that one to find out all kinds of things. One of the things, for example, early that we found was that there are really no reliable data on the physiological capacity of teenage women. And then we had uniforms, and we had relations and so forth. It was a remarkably strategic challenge to try to get everything from how to design a dress coat for a woman, where to put them in the billets, what should be the relationship of them and other people. It was a remarkable sociological exercise.
Despite their best efforts, the Academy was ill-prepared for the arrival of women. Women were met with opposition and preparation deficiencies.
I just remembered somebody reported on the radio that the superintendent said, you know, if women come here, I'll resign or something like that.
Negative thoughts and actions about the integration of women to West Point trickled down the chain of command, from the Academy's leadership to the Corps.
You don't want them around?
No, sir.
This would lead to the reconstruction of West Point's leadership, including its most senior officer.
We had to change out a lot of the leadership that we've been working with.
In 1977, General Andrew Goodpasture came out of retirement to become West Point's superintendent. This decorated war hero had been NATO's supreme allied commander, and he was the right person for the job. He sought to substitute positive leadership for hazing and personal abuse, and to ease the admission of women to the academy. Early in his tenure, Goodpasture told his staff he would escort them to the door with a handshake if they did not accept the female cadets, and much of the overt opposition disappeared. The academy had made many physical changes prior to the women's arrival, an example being uniforms. The tails of the dress jackets were removed for female cadets because, as one officer said to the New York Times, they just stick out too much in the back. Women also had 6 fewer pockets than their male counterparts. No changes were made to the men's uniforms, and the female version was priced $400 more than the men's. These alterations that were made before the first females even showed up foreshadowed sexism that females would face. The West Point experience is demanding for all cadets through physical, mental, and emotional rigor. Challenges were compounded for the class of 1980 women, as they were the first females executing these tasks and had no benchmark against which to compare their performance. Women were expected to do physical training that during this time period was taboo and uncommon for females to complete.
The situation was that we had then left probably 95 of those young women, and we had 43 of them that had something broken, something sprained, or a stress fracture.
While some struggled with these requirements, others surprised male counterparts and leadership with their physical aptitude. Many women earned a Recondo patch for successfully completing Infantry Week at Camp Buckner. It was a team effort that required completing various skills tests like rock climbing and leading patrol, along with the Enduro Run, a 2.5-mile timed run in combat boots while wearing a heavy helmet and carrying full battle rattle and rifle. The women in this first class were instrumental in developing the first varsity women's sport at the Academy. In 1976, the first women's basketball team was organized as a club sport, and they practiced and played games at the Arvin Gymnasium rather than the field house where the men played. After the first few home games, the stands along one side of the court became packed with cadets, faculty, and staff. The men saw that the women, nicknamed the Sugar Smacks, played aggressively and were out to win despite limited size and skill. The record for the first season was 15-5. This was an all-freshman squad competing against seniors and juniors from other colleges, so the winning was that much sweeter. When the academic year started in 1977, basketball became a varsity women's sport, and their record was 18-5. The success of the women's basketball team that first year helped female cadets in general gain respect. Even though women attained some respect, the sexual harassment and hazing these women were subject to is yet another barrier they had to break in their quest to graduate and become commissioned officers. To instill discipline, West Point relies on a rank structure, referred to as the fourth class system, where upperclassmen are leaders and underclassmen are followers. When the class of 1980 arrived, it was not uncommon for upperclassmen to haze and belittle freshmen who were referred to as plebes. The West Point experience was demanding for all plebes and was especially intensified for females, who gained extra attention due to their new and controversial presence. One female cadet explained not a day passed plebe year when upperclassmen wouldn't approach her and say that they would do everything they could to run her and all of her female classmates out of the academy. These disparaging remarks continued for the next 3 years.
I was often a target, but really what saved me was they couldn't get anything from me. There was a period of time in the fall of my plebe year where, for no reason I could discern, suddenly all the upperclassmen were coming down on me. You know, I was reporting around to rooms in every spare minute. You know, they were ganging up on me in formation. And it wasn't unusual for that to happen to a plebe.
Women were targeted regularly.
And it was one of the occasions that if one person stopped a female cadet to correct her, haze her, whatever, and it was always the goal to try to make us late for class. And so these two had stopped me going across Central area, and of course every time somebody stopped, because it was new, everybody kind of flocked around. And so instead of just 2 people hazing me, there was a big gaggle. It was like, 20 people, and it was a big roar. They were just yelling and just mean spirit as possible.
Women faced harassment throughout their West Point years, but they pushed through all of the barriers and successfully graduated as members of the first co-ed class at West Point in 1980.
This is a symbolic day, but it's also a day for, I'd say, very careful consideration of exactly what we've done.
The 62 women that broke barriers as the first female members of the Long Gray Line overcame unimaginable obstacles. Every female to graduate since 1980 stands on their shoulders.
Women are required to play sports, take boxing, and complete all military training to standard, just like the men.
Interviews with multiple current female cadets all revealed appreciation for the barriers broken by the women of the class of 1980.
We are now viewed very much equal to our male peers. And while, yes, there are a few that still think somewhat old-fashioned, my male peers and instructors do not doubt the females, as we have all proven our right to be here.
Through their trailblazing, the class of 1980 left an indelible mark on West Point, the U.S. Armed Forces, and the United States of America.